Hey everyone, hope you had a great weekend. Welcome, thanks for tuning in. My name is Brennan, Decima, owner of Decima Wealth Consulting. Can't believe summer is coming to a close. Our son starts kindergarten this week, so last 2 days of summer in our house, which is absolutely wild. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what's called the widow's penalty, what it is, how it impacts the surviving spouse, and then steps that we take to help minimize that. So about 2 weeks ago, we hosted a seminar on tax efficiency, and the focus was on asset location, reducing taxes on your portfolio, but then also ways to structure your retirement withdrawals to lower your tax bill as much as possible over the length of retirement. And after the dinner, I had a lady come up to me. Her name was Valerie. And she said, hey, I really loved the seminar. I felt like you were speaking directly to me, but I just feel like it's too late. I don't feel like I have any options. I would love for your help. So we went and grabbed coffee last week and really had just a good conversation on her situation. And I asked her if it'd be okay to share, to just help others put themselves in a better position while they still have levers to pull. So Valerie's husband unfortunately passed away about 2 years ago. They had retired in 2010, so they've been retired for about 15 years, and they did a wonderful job putting themselves in a position for a successful retirement. So if we rewind back to 2010, we're still coming out of the great financial crisis. 2008 was a really scary time. Hit the bottom in 2009. I don't think anyone was quite confident in retiring in 2010, right? Really crazy time. Markets had not recovered from the depths of the bottom yet in 2010. So when they retired, they did a couple different things. So the good news is they had a pension. They both had Social Security. And they decided, hey, we want a big safety net. So they had $500,000, $500,000 that they kept in cash, just because they were very uneasy about the market plummeting again. They had another $500,000 in a brokerage account in various different dividend-paying stocks and mutual funds. And then between the two of them, they had about $1 million in their 401ks. So they had $2 million in retirement, and it was, a really nice, healthy mix, right? So about 25% in cash, which is a little bit high, but I can understand that coming out of 2008, right? Peace of mind in retirement is critical. And they had a good mixture of tax-deferred money and taxable money, right? Money that they had already paid taxes on. Now, she shared with me, they had been in a fairly high tax bracket as working professionals. And their biggest priority when they retired was they just didn't want to pay taxes. They knew that taxes were the biggest expense in retirement. And I asked what kind of planning they did for retirement cash flow planning, and they said really they did it all by themselves. They read a lot of articles from Kiplinger's and Barron's, and they did their homework on the internet. And everything they said told them to leave their 401k alone as long as possible and wait until mandatory distributions down the road at 70 and a half, right? So that's what they did. And if you rewind back to 2010, cash really paid nothing for years. It pays a lot more now, but it paid next to nothing. Brokerage account, stock market had a pretty good run. But when she handed me the statement, the first thing I noticed was she had about $80,000 in cash. There was nothing in the brokerage account. When I say nothing, a few $1,000s. And then there was $3 million in the 401k. So by all definitions of success, they did a wonderful job, right? So they retired 15 years ago. They've been having a high quality retirement. They helped a daughter out with a wedding. They've been traveling. And they have $1 million more. She has $1 million more today than at retirement in 2010. So that's a fantastic spot to be in. Really, really good spot. But what she said to me really kind of stood out. And I see this with a lot of people that we work with. But even though her nest egg was really high, she was absolutely terrified to do anything in retirement. So she said that really what she wanted to do is the kids were up north, the grandkids were up north. Her biggest priority in retirement was being able to go visit them frequently so she could see the grandkids grow up, right? So going up to the Northeast to visit family. When I asked what big ticket expenses that she had, she needed a new car, she needed a new roof, her pool cage needed repaired. So quite a bit of short-term expenses. And I asked her what the time frame for those was, and she said they've all needed done. She's just been really afraid to withdraw money to spend anything. So she's $1 million wealthier today, but now that the financial responsibility is on her plate, she's just paralyzed to make a mistake, right? So as we talk through that, I kind of walk through what was causing the concern, and a few things were causing the concern. The first was, even though she had a bigger nest egg, her guaranteed income had dramatically cut. So her husband had a pension, but it only had a 50% survivor on it. So she was getting half the guaranteed income from the pension. So more responsibility on the savings. Her Social Security was the lower of the two. So she was receiving her Social Security for him, but hers disappeared. So the guaranteed income cut quite a bit. So that means more of the income comes from the savings. So she had been watching the market minute by minute in March and April when we had the steep decline, and she was just terrified to take any money out. The next thing she said is she realized last year her tax bill jumped dramatically last year. So they had been paying single-digit effective tax rate for the last 15 years, and her tax bill dramatically went up last year. It more than doubled after he passed away. And this is what the widow's penalty is. It essentially is when you file joint, the tax brackets are much wider. You can get out more income at lower rates. But a single filer, the brackets are much tighter. So in their situation, they drained, for the most part, all of the cash and brokerage based off the articles that they read. They left the 401k alone. And now that she's filing single, she needs more income from her savings than they originally did. But that income is not coming out at single-digit rates. It's now coming out for her at the 24% bracket. So she is just terrified that if she spends on the roof, if she spends on the pool cage, if she gets a new car, she's just giving so much money away to taxes that she just is not doing it. She has more money, but it's impacting her quality of life. So this is what the widow's penalty is. It's leaving the surviving spouse with a substantially higher tax rate than when you were filing when you were both alive. So how do we prepare for this? The main way to do it is something called bracket topping. And you start by really knowing your numbers, right? So what we do is we do a detailed review of the tax filing. We use a tool called Holistiplan to evaluate where you are in your tax bracket, how much of that comes from pensions, Social Security, annuities, rental. We look at dividends, capital gains. And then we see what wiggle room you have before you hop into a higher tax bracket. So you can do this at home. You can check your current income, your dividends, your interest, pull up the 2025 tax rates, and see what gap you have in your current bracket. We then look at the Medicare, the IRMA premium. So we see, hey, if we take more income, do we have any wiggle room before it starts to cost you more on health insurance? And if there is a gap, we then do something called bracket topping. That's something where we can either do Roth conversions, so we can fill up the bracket by converting to Roth. And remember, there's no income or contribution limits to Roth conversions. So we can fill up that bracket, which now creates a tax-free bucket for the spouse to help them protect and give them a bucket where they can withdraw from without taxes for the roof, for the pool cage, for the new car, to give them a little extra peace of mind for those bigger ticket expenses. Or we can use the rest of that bracket to say, hey, let's leave alone the cash, or let's leave alone the stocks in the brokerage account, and let's take our income from the 401k because it's still at that preferential tax bracket. So I think the bracket topping strategy, what that does is it equalizes your taxes. That way you're paying the lowest tax bill over the length of your retirement, as opposed to maybe getting a bunch of low tax years on the front end, but then just absolutely hammering your spouse or the surviving spouse with taxes on the back end. So again, this is not something for everyone. So some people may be in the very highest tax bracket in retirement, but I think what's critical is those well-meaning publications of just leave the tax deferred assets alone. That's not a one-size-fits-all, right? And that can be really, really punitive for your loved ones in the event you have an early death and they have a lot of years on their own. So if you need any help with this, give us a call or visit us at our website, www.decimawealth.com. And if you find this material helpful, please subscribe. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.